Harry owns a clothing brand that has 4,000 followers on Instagram. However, just because he had followers doesn't mean he has members. And just because he has an audience doesn't mean he has a community. Well, we started to post about his reason for existing, the meaning behind the brand, instead of just the product. And what happened was dramatic. Instead of just seeing comments like this, we started seeing comments like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Today, Harry's clothing brand doesn't just have an audience, and they don't just sell clothing. They are a community. Hi, I'm Elijah, and once upon a time, I was creating content for Culture Kings, Champion, and many other brands that you probably know. Today, I'm helping streetwear brands turn their audience into a community. This video is part 2 of a 5-part series all about the exact structure I've used to help brands like Harry's turn their audience into a community, and I'm going to teach you how to. By watching this series to the end and applying its advice, you'll be able to successfully cultivate a community. In business terms, that means more customers that stay for longer and buy more times. There is absolutely no reason why you wouldn't want to turn your clothing brand into a community. So here's what we're going to cover today. First of all, we're going to be talking about how to attract an audience the right way. There's a lot of advice out there about how to get a lot of views. However, views don't necessarily correlate into a community. Maybe an audience, but not a community. So we're going to be talking about that. Then we're going to be learning some storytelling basics, which is going to run nicely into creating the content itself. What kind of videos and photos should you be posting on your brand page so that you can not only grow an audience, but grow a community? So here's my promise to you. If you get to the end of today's video, you'll learn how to convert not just anyone, but the right people to your community. And if that wasn't enough, I have a personalized gift for you at the end of this video. It's only for people that stay to the end. It's totally free, totally personalized, and it's for those that want to take their brand to the next level this year with the power of community. All right, let's talk about how to attract your founding members. For a brief recap on the last video, we spoke about how to plan your community. It was all around the fact that you cannot build a community around a product. You can, however, around a big idea. It's just the product that represents that big idea. And so we have these 2 types of content almost that we're going to be breaking down today. And the first type is the content that you're probably the most familiar with. It's content about your product. And the thing is with this is it's super important. I should say that from the outset, because if people don't know about the product, then how can they buy it? Advertising is paramount. However, the thing is, content about your product will get you one thing and one thing only: sales, right? And you need sales, you need money to run the business, but what it's not going to get you is customers. And so that's when we talk about the step before advertising your product, which is about obtaining the customers. It doesn't directly result in money in your pocket. However, in time it does, because of course from customers comes sale after sale after sale. And so what is this other type of content? It's anything about your big idea. That's what we spoke about in the last lesson. But in short, your big idea is an ethos, culture, or lifestyle behind your brand. It has nothing to do with the product. However, it's embodied by the product. And so creating content around this idea is going to help you obtain customers, obtain what I like to call the founding members, the people that resonate with your brand and everything that it stands for, who eventually are going to become the most loyal customers to your brand. Some call this type of content entertainment advertising, because it's all about creating content that's not directly or explicitly about your product. It's not saying, hey, buy my t-shirt, buy my hoodie. It's all about creating content that is value first. It's delivering value to the very person who will become a part of your community, to the person that best resonates with your message. And so value content, to give it a definition, is any content that is focused on delivering value to a very specific target audience. Now, I want to give you an example. The example is Nike. I spoke about them in the last lesson and we broke down their brand identity. So now let's continue on from that and see how they use that brand identity to create content that attracts not just customers or sales, but an audience that will become a community. One example of their value content are these inspirational quotes that they post. They have an image of an athlete that's probably an ambassador for the brand of some kind. They're wearing the Nike merchandise. However, it's not really about the product. There's nothing in the post that says, check out this new collection, or here's where you can buy this product. It's really about the person, about the athlete, and it's focused on storytelling. And usually there's a little inspirational quote on screen that'll have something to do with one of the sub-themes of their brand and their identity, something like winning or about discipline or motivation, something that you'd look at, and if you were a passionate athlete, you'd probably share that on your story or with your friends. And so this is one way that Nike is using this value content to gain not just sales, but customers who will become integral parts of their community. Another example is the Nike podcast. It's called Trained, and they speak about the areas of health: physical health, mental health, emotional health, social health. They talk about motivation, sleep patterns, and they have guests, anyone from Simon Sinek to some of the athletes that are ambassadors for their brand, and they talk about how to improve your health. And this is one of the ways they're educating their audience and growing an audience this way, who will also become a founding member to their community. Are you seeing what I'm putting down here? It's that if you get people buy the product, they stay by the product. And the problem is with that is that the products come and go. And so they'll go with the product when it's no longer available. However, if you get people buy the brand, buy your big idea, the identity behind the products that they represent, that's something that stays. It's foundational no matter whatever you're dropping. And that's also something that us as humans can deeply resonate with and is reason to become part of the community. If we go back to the last lesson, the common trait between all of the greatest community is the fact that the members are unified by a common idea. Well, you need to gather them by that idea, by the content you post, and that is through the value content. The next question is, how do these brands actually go about creating this content? Not so much how they film it, but rather the ideation process behind it. How do you come up with this stuff that really doesn't have anything to do with your clothing product, and how can you too? So I like to break it down into 3 types of value content: entertainment, education, and inspiration. What you'll find is most non-product or non-promotional content that is with purpose to cultivate a community is or fits within one of these categories. And so entertainment content looks at anything that's funny or relatable or interesting. Next is educational content, could be giving tutorials, how-tos, or just generally sharing information. If you're sharing the news or any sort of notices that are relevant to your clothing brand niche or big idea, that's all informational and would come under the category of education. And then finally, there's inspiration content, which is motivational, actionable, or shareable. It's those quotes that you see. It's anything that makes me go, yeah, I really resonate with that, or prompts me to take action. That's inspirational content. Now, the idea with these 3 types of content is that you as a clothing brand, in order to build a community, create within these types to do content that is relevant to your big idea. So if you're a brand that's all about skateboarding and that's your big idea, you don't want to be creating content about mental health. You want to be creating content about skateboarding. Or for example, if you're a brand that's about getting outdoors, you don't want to be creating content about how great it's to be a homebody, right? So you use these guidelines of entertainment, education, and inspiration to create content specific to your niche and your clothing brand. And that is more on brand than anything, more on brand than even your clothing itself. I think it's really helpful to understand these concepts with some solidified examples. So let's look back to Nike. We understand a bit about their brand identity. They're defining what it means to be an athlete. That's their big idea. Let's see how they use that idea to turn it into content under entertainment, education, and inspiration. First of all, entertainment. So we're going to watch this short 10-second video together, and then we're going to talk about what they're doing.
The good news is you made it into the highlight reel. The bad news is you made it into the highlight reel.
Man, I love it. I think it's really funny, right? And that's the point of entertainment content. I mean, this video is showing the irony in sport culture, right? That there's, at the same time, there can be a sports player that made it into the highlight reel that had their massive win, but it also reflects the other side, that there's got to be losers. And so I think if you're a person that's interested in sporting, this is something that's, it's funny and you get it. And I mean, even if not, you can get it. But you can see how this video has nothing to do with the clothing product. People in the short are, of course, wearing Nike costumes. They're wearing Nike t-shirts and jerseys. However, it's not really about it. The subject is storytelling, and the story is about this girl who's winning, right? And maybe she's the protagonist, and then there's the antagonist, which happens to be the other team. But it's something you remember. It sticks in your mind, and this is just something that's not possible if you're just creating content all about your product. And of course, the point of this entire series, it's not possible to cultivate a community with stuff like this, because this is the stuff that says, I'm a part of this bigger idea. I'm a part of something that's not just selling clothing, but selling this idea of what it means to be a sports person in the case of Nike, or for whatever your niche or big idea is as your clothing brand. Let's watch the second video now, and then we're going to talk about it again.
I'm Grant.
I'm Amos.
I'm Craig.
I'm Paula.
Recovery Run's all about recovery.
I guess my favorite thing about the recovery run, you just chat to people and you just share stories.
It's important to stay hydrated and just be relaxed.
If you can talk and hold a conversation, you're probably recovering, right? If you can't hold a conversation, you're going way too hard. So recovery days, keep them light, keep them easy, have some company, and have some fun.
Awesome. There's a lot of great things going on in this video, and I mean, I only have time to break down a fraction of it, but you'll notice, different from the first one, this one is more of an educational focus. It's about how do you properly do a recovery run. You need to make sure that you're not running too fast, and do it with friends and keep it interesting. If you can hold a conversation, you're doing it right. And so this is going to be like, this is under the Nike running Instagram page. And so you can see how if you're a runner, you would consume this not just because you like a clothing product, but because it's genuinely valuable to you. And if you like, put yourself in the shoes of Nike, they're trying to think, how do we build a community of runners around the Nike running brand? Well, very simply, post the content that attracts the runners. And so if you're in the niche of mental health, if you're in the niche of sustainability, if you're in the niche of skateboarding or sport, you could be in anything about getting outdoors. There's so many opportunities to post educational content. Here's what you should bring on a hike, or here's some signs of grief, or, these kind of things that are relevant to your brand, that are gathering the founding members of people that might actually be interested in being a part of your community and buy for the emotional reasons before the logic. Now let's look at one final post of Nike's together in the final category of inspiration. And this time it's not a video, it's in fact a post. And it says this: if you can shoot, you can shoot. Great. So simple, right? What are they doing here? Well, you can see the common theme here. I keep saying it. It's not about the clothing. It's about the idea behind the clothing, about success, what it means to be an athlete. And this is a post that, I mean, if you were interested in sport, if you were interested in basketball, heck, you'd be really interested in this. It's like, yeah, I can shoot, I get into this. And the other thing is that a post like this that's inspirational prompts people to comment, right? And people that are within the niche that are passionate or share interests with the kind of ideas that you're sharing. And what's so powerful about that? Well, let's just think from an engagement perspective. Every social media platform is ranking your posts according to the engagement. Well, that's one of the ways anyway. And so if you have a post that lots of people are commenting on, lots of people are liking, then they're going to say that's more valuable, or that's people like this more than another post, and they're going to boost it in the algorithm. And so, I mean, that's, if you can post some inspirational or motivational content that prompts people to comment, even if it's a bit controversial, this is, if you can shoot, you can shoot. Some people would say, well, not everyone can shoot, right? So you know, you understand what I'm saying. The purpose of this is not to sell a product. The purpose of this content is to gather the people that are going to buy your product, but not only that, become part of your community, people who buy and buy and buy again. And then later on, when you finally say, okay, here, by the way, here's the latest collection, now they're ready. Now they're ready, and you've got the right eyes. Not just eyes, but the right eyes. If I'm not yet selling you on the idea of posting non-promotional content, I just want to show you what it's like purely from an engagement perspective when done well. Here are 2 posts from Nike. One is of LeBron James. It says 40K plus 10K plus 10K equals number 1, right? Because he's number 1 in the world. And then here's another post of the Nike Air Max DNs, right? So it's a new shoe that they were releasing, I suppose. And the engagement on these 2 posts, the difference is dramatic, right? You've got 1.2 million likes on LeBron James, and on these shoes you have less than 100,000. Now 100,000 sounds pretty good to most people, but considering that Nike has more than 300 million followers, it's pretty poor engagement for their standards. And so it's just to show you that posting stuff that's actually valuable and it's focused on the target audience and not asking for them to give you money, buy your product, whatever. If it's focused on them, that does actually get more engagement more times than not, right? And of course, there's other factors in it. It comes down to like, what's the quality of what you post? And do people actually like it? Is it actually valuable? There needs to be some experimentation and iteration in that process. However, if and when you get it right, then you can expect much higher engagement on your value post versus your product posts. And that's also another part. It's about reaching people and growing your audience before you even sell them on anything, is growing your community. And that's going to do you better for the long run and later down the track. So now that we understand the mindset behind the type of content that you want to be creating to find your founding members of the community, now we need to understand how to actually create it in a way that works and reaches. And I like to take the advice of Adam Mosseri. He is the head of Instagram, and he says the most important metric of all of them is shares. It's shares. It's not likes, it's not comments, it's not saves, it's shares. And why is that? It's because if someone shares it, it has the potential to reach many more people. You just multiply that number by a power, depending on the size of their audience, of course. And so sharing has the potential to take your reach to the very next level. And so how do you actually create a piece of content, a piece of value content that's shareable? Well, you're already on the right track if you are in the mindset of creating content value first before asking for people to buy your product. But it's all about becoming remarkable. And remarkable is something that you would make a remark about, like you'd tell someone else about. And that gives you the opportunity as a brand, if you can create remarkable content, to spread beyond your direct audience, to the indirect audience, the friends of your followers. And so what is remarkable? How do you actually create something remarkable? Well, I like to think about it like this. People share stories. We always have since the beginning of time. You know, I live in Australia, and the native peoples of my country, the Indigenous Australians, are the oldest living civilization on Earth. And the thing that's so core, so integral to their way of being is storytelling. They have these things called Dreamtime stories. They sit around the campfire and tell stories about how we came to be, why things exist, and how it's come to be in that way. And the reason this works so well is because stories, they're so deeply ingrained into our human nature. They're easy to pass on. It's not like information, facts and figures, numbers. Although those things are important, stories are what we will remember. People won't remember your product, but rather they'll remember who created it and the story behind that person and the brand. And so if you want your brand to be memorable, but not only memorable, but also remarkable, then you need to be telling stories around it. And so that's why for the second part of this lesson, we're going to be talking about some storytelling basics. When you're creating your value-focused content, what I want you to be thinking about is the 2 elements of every story. This is what I believe that makes up stories, makes them what they are, And if you don't have these, it's simply a pretty video, a pretty post. And there's all too many of those nowadays. And that's not really going to get the reach that you want. And so here are the two elements: conflict and resolution. I believe if you only have those two elements, you've got a story, and one worth telling. So just think about that behind everything that you create from this day onwards, and I promise it'll at least increase the reach that you're getting today. So now that we understand value content, how it's going to help you find your founding members, or rather help them to find you, and then how you're going to create that using storytelling as a priority, let's talk about what you do when you don't want to create the content yourself. It's another type of value content that's an absolutely a viable option for any brand owners that want to extend themselves, either create more content in total, like you create it with someone else, or you just don't like creating content, so you have someone else do it for you. And of course, you can pay someone. However, there's another option, and it's called crowdsourced content. Now, crowdsourced content is anything that's made by people exterior to your company in the wider community. And I should say, as I mentioned, it's not content that you pay for, but rather you incentivize others to create for you, or you simply borrow and repost. There's two main types of crowdsourced content that you can be utilizing in your company. And by the way, you can do this on top of the content you create yourself. They are influencers and content creators. So the influencers are those, I like to define them as those with an established audience already that recognize them as an authority in whatever your big idea is. So for example, if you're a brand that is all about getting outdoors and loving the earth, like Patagonia, for example, then I would be choosing influencers that are already recognized in that space of sustainability. The thing is, many clothing brands default to choosing influencers in the fashion space. But the people you're trying to attract for your community aren't necessarily fashion enthusiasts. They're people that are interested or resonate with your big idea. So choose influencers that also resonate with that. An example would be for a sustainability brand like Patagonia. They're all about loving the environment, and their community also attracts people who resonate with that idea. A great influencer for them would be someone like Greta Thunberg. This is one of the youngest environmental activists, and she's gotten quite famous in recent years, in the last 5 years or so. And so she'd be fantastic if she were to rep the Patagonia clothing brand. Man, all of her followers would suddenly think, well, that's, since I'm into the environment and looking after it and caring for it too, then I might want to wear the same clothing as Greta Thunberg, because that's what people who care about the environment do. That's how I represent my identity to the world and become a part of a greater community of environmental activists. The second kind are content creators. Now, these aren't necessarily influencers. They might not have a large influence. However, they are creating value content inside of your big idea. So entertainment, education, inspiration, all about your big idea. The reason this works well is because their content is standalone. They don't need a big name behind them. You don't even need to recognize their face to understand what they're trying to deliver through their content. Carrying on with the example of Patagonia, they could go to someone like Tasman Peterson. He is a photographer and videographer who likes to travel and takes a lot of pictures of the outdoors, landscapes, and the environment. And so, although his following isn't massive, just under 4,000 followers, Patagonia could still use his content to convey a message of environmental activism, and that would attract their members of the community that are going to become the loyal customers, because that's the kind of content they already consume and enjoy. And so, open your eyes, not just to influencers, and especially not just to fashion influencers, but also the influencers in your space that represent this big idea that you want to represent in your brand, and also to those that may not have a massive following, but are creating the value content, the entertainment, education, and inspiration that you too want to be creating in your brand. So if you want to get started in particular with crowdsourced content, because it's really easy to get started on that if you don't have the resources to create content of your own, here is your action step for today. Follow the celebrities, theme pages, and content creators that your most loyal customers follow. because chances are your loyal customers follow pages that resonate with them. So you follow them too. Then I want you to watch their feed and save the posts, reach out to the content creators, and send clothing to the influencers. And in this way, you're going to build a bank in your saved posts of things that you could see you posting or reposting onto your page too. Again, just make sure it aligns with the big idea behind your brand. So if you're a brand that's all about skating, don't post stuff about the environment. Or if you're a brand that's about mental health, there's no need to post things about skating. So just make sure it is on brand to whatever your big idea is. And reach out to these creators. Message them saying, hey, I'm building a community of environmental activists, or whatever your big idea is too. And I would love to repost and share this content that you're posting to your community with some credit. And look, chances are they'll say yes. Especially, like, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. You just want to post, like, send cold messages to a lot of people, and I'm sure one of them will say yes, because all you need is one. So we've gone over a lot in this video, so let's recap it all. First of all, you cannot build a community around a product. You can, however, around your big idea. So create content about that idea, and you will attract not only sales, but customers, which eventually will become part of your community. Then creating a community-focused social media page looks like delivering value. It's by entertaining, educating, and inspiring according to your brand's unique big idea. And by focusing on storytelling when you're creating that content, you're making yourself remarkable and organically reaching beyond your direct audience. It's a way to grow beyond the people you're reaching currently. Alternatively, if you don't want to make the content yourself, you can work on crowdsourcing content by following the celebrities, theme pages, and other content creators within your niche and simply talking to them, asking if you can repost their stuff. Or you can just do that on top of the content you're already creating. Well, thanks for watching. This is all for this lesson. If you found this valuable and you resonate with the idea of building a community around your clothing brand, then I want you to go into the description right now. There's a link there where you can book a free community roadmap call where we're gonna figure out where you're at right now, where you want to go, and how to get there with the power of community. Basically just working through together all the stuff that I'm laying out for you in these lessons. Again, it's 100% free and there's no reason not to. So look, if you're wanting to build a community, book in that call and I can't wait to meet you. And by the way, this video is part 2 of 5 in a larger series all about how to turn your audience into a community behind your clothing brand. In the next part, part 3, I'm going to be sharing how to actually take these social media followers and turn them into highly engaged community members. And this is really where you find the difference between an audience and a community and get those customers that become fans, faithful advocates, and nurtured. Thanks for watching. Please click the video on screen now if you are keen to learn how to do that. I'm Elijah Delport, and thanks for watching.